Hello everybody, my name is Crimson, and in today's video we are going to be starting our look through of the Dark Souls Design Works art book. This is a book that is a 3-part series of books for Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 2, and Dark Souls 3. They aren't super long books, however, they have incredible information, art, and concept art, so I'm really looking forward to covering this video, or this book. So we are going to start with Dark Souls 1, then 2, and then 3. So I have with me here 3 out of my 4 little Dark Souls figures. So I have my Solaire of Astora Nendoroid. He has his shield, and he also has his sword that is on his belt, which I think is really cool. Then also we have my Black Knight, and I am just realizing that I left his sword upstairs before I brought him down. Really cool figure, and also just really cute. His armor is great, and he has his shield. And lastly, we have one of my favorite characters in the original Dark Souls, that is Gwendolyn. I know there's lots of memes around Gwendolyn, but personally I find him to be a really interesting character and one of my favorites. Now, the Solaire Nendoroid can of course be purchased, however the Black Knight and Gwendolyn I bought off of Etsy, and at this point in time the shop that I bought it from has closed down, which is unfortunate. One, because I would have loved to link it in the description for you guys to be able to purchase them if you would like, but also I had wanted to get a few more because there was a couple others. There was the Elite Knight, and there was a Silver Knight and all that, but it's no longer available. Anyway, without any further ado, let us get into the Dark Souls Design Works book. So this just says Dark Souls Design Works. This is of course a From Software game. This is their second game, their first being Demon Souls in this genre. However, despite Demon Souls being the first game, I would actually say Dark Souls is the more important of the two, because Dark Souls is really what started the whole From Software formula. It started the whole Soulsborne series, and yeah, so as much as I love Demon Souls, and I have actually bought the Demon Souls art book, Dark Souls 1 to me is more important. So here we have our table of contents. So chapter 1, concept art. By the way, I have not looked through this art book yet, so we are looking through this together for the first time. Okay, so on the left we have I'm assuming this is supposed to be our player character in the Elite Knight set. He has a sword here and his shield on his left arm, another sword here, and he appears to be sitting in front of a bonfire. On the right, we have a Black Knight holding his Black Knight. I believe this is the Black Knight straight sword, the standard sword, not the Black Knight great sword. And this, I believe, is the cover art for the Prepare to Die version of Dark Souls, which is the PC version and the one I first played Dark Souls on. Next up, we have, I believe, another piece of cover art or promotional art. We have an Elite Knight holding up a sword with 2 hands. I actually cannot recall what this specific sword is called. However, it does look very ornate, especially in its hilt. It looks very golden and covered in runes. So, here is our the character, Oscar. He believes in the prophecy of the chosen undead. So he comes into the undead asylum and is freeing all of the hollows and undead within to fulfill the prophecy. So it is thanks to him that our journey into Lordran begins. This is the main cover for the original Dark Souls. I'm actually not sure what this is, or this character here is supposed to be. I've heard lots of different interpretations of it. So we see he has a sword, a shield. One theory that I saw on Reddit that I like is that this is Artorias entering the abyss. The portal in front of him looks kind of like he's stepping into another kind of dimension or something, which the abyss is. And the sword that he's holding, it looks very similar to the sword that Artorias uses. However, I am not sure. The shield, again, we don't know, because when we fight Artorias, his arm is broken and he is not wielding a shield. Here is another knight. This appears to be a holy knight. So this is what would be a strength faith build. The reason I'm saying faith is the light or the sunlight looming down on the shield gives it a very holy look, and with him kneeling, he seems very godly. Maybe that's just my opinion, but that's what it looks like. Here is another picture of the Black Knight that we saw earlier. I'm not sure what this is supposed to be, actually. It looks like there's some kind of weapon across here, but I'm not sure what this image of the knight is on or what this blue glow is. If anyone knows, please do let me know in the comments. So here is where our journey begins, the undead asylum. Here is the courtyard, and here is the asylum demon, it looks like. This actually, to me, looks more like the Taurus demon compared to the asylum demon, but it is the asylum demon that we end up fighting here and is our first boss of the game. Here is our cell. So this hollow in the corner here is presumably our player character at the very beginning. Oscar, that we covered a couple pages ago, pops his head over here and essentially throws you down a key and says, hey, I'm freeing all the undead from their cells, now's your chance to escape. So we use the key to open this door and make our way through the asylum. The asylum is essentially one big tutorial. Oh, sorry, I forgot to say a little bit of a fun fact. For your starting gift, when you make a character, you get the option of choosing black fire bombs. If, when you first enter the courtyard, normally what you're meant to do is enter the courtyard and the asylum demon drops down. Then you run away, progress further until you get your sword and whatever, your armor and whatever other stuff your character goes with depending on your class. Then you make your way up to this ledge and drop down and then fight him from there. However, if when the asylum demon first drops down, you use your 3 black firebombs to hit him, and if all 3 firebombs hit, it kills him. This gives you the weapon, the Great Mace, that the Asylum Demon uses, which is so, so cool. I am always a strength build in these kinds of games, so having a weapon like that is very good. It's a weapon that I definitely, it's not always my go-to, but it's something that I do use quite a bit. This, I can't tell where exactly this is. This actually looks a lot like I believe this is actually Blight Town. Based on, it looks like there's swamps over here, and this bit right here looks like one of the enemies that we fight at the bottom of Blight Town. I may be incorrect. I wasn't expecting to see Blight Town this early in the book, especially since we just left the asylum, but that's just what it looks like to me. Maybe it's somewhere else. Here is Anor Londo in all of its majestic glory. So as you can see, the sun is still shining. You can see the towers. This is the main palace here. Really, really cool area. And I think for all of us, the first time we make our way to Anor Londo after defeating the Iron Golem is an incredible moment in gaming. If you have played Dark Souls, it is definitely a moment that sticks with you. And of course, we end up running along one of these arches to progress through the level. Here we have Gwendolyn. So Gwendolyn is a semi-secret boss, I guess you could say. He is found by kind of manipulating the rift near the castle of Anor Londo to access a little secret room on the bottom floor, and if you enter there, you get to fight Gwendolyn. I'm not sure if you have to kill Guinevere to be able to fight him or not, but once you enter that, you start your encounter with Gwendolyn. It's not a very difficult fight. He is very weak. However, he teleports further and further away from you and is continuously launching magic spells at you. So here is Gwendolyn here. I'm hoping he pops up later in some of the character artwork. But Gwendolyn, despite being a man, was raised as a woman by Gwyn. There's many theories as to why this is. However, the most popular theory is because Gwyn and his whole family and his whole empire is based on sunlight, using lightning and the power of the sun and all that stuff. Gwendolyn was extremely proficient in lunar-based magic, so magic to do with the moon instead of the sun. So people think that maybe lunar magic is something that females of the royal family do instead of the males. And since Gwendolyn was very good at it, he was decided to be raised as a woman so that he could better be part of that, rather than have a male son who cannot use the standard male magic in the family. Again, that's just a theory. None of that's confirmed lore, but that's just a theory, and I, for one, believe it. So here are two different pictures of the gravesite of Artorias. Actually, no, I apologize. This looks like the end of the asylum. So after you defeat the asylum demon, you make your way up here, and then this is where the crow would grab you and fly you over to Lordran. This is the gravesite of Artorias. So this is his grave here, with one massive sword and many smaller swords around it. This gravesite is guarded by Sif, Artorius's wolf, great grey wolf Sif, who is a massive, massive wolf who can wield a sword. Presumably, these are all swords of people who have died, fellow undead and the like, but I'm not quite sure, but that's what it looks like here. This, I actually can't tell what this is. It's a very dark image. It looks like it is somewhere near the Bed of Chaos, or at least somewhere in the Demon Ruins based on the color palette, but maybe I am mistaken. I'm really liking this art book so far. Okay, so here we have a couple of pictures. So this is the Duke's Grand Archive, the Duke being Seath the Scaleless. So here we have our player character, knight, sword, and shield in hand, with Seath the Scaleless here. Seath the Scaleless is a dragon who betrayed his own kind and sided with Gwyn, and because the dragon's secret to immortality was their scales, whereas Seath was born without scales, so Seath is mortal. So he has become obsessed with trying to find a way of becoming immortal, and has kind of gone mad in the process. So we see all of the crystals surrounding him here. This is the Duke's tower and archive as seen from a distance. We can access this once we get the Lord Vessel and all that stuff. And Framt takes us down to the door of the kiln of the first flame. Then all of those magic barriers open. And then here is another picture of the Duke's Grand Archives. So as you can see, it is a massive, massive academic looking building with a few crystals sprouting out here and there. There's massive staircases all over the place to lead you around. In the game, you end up moving some of these staircases, which is pretty cool. Something else, this area reminds me a lot of the research hall in Bloodborne, but yeah, maybe that's just because, again, I'm a big Bloodborne fan. I'll try not to mention Bloodborne too much in this video, since this is Dark Souls. Here we have a little bridge, very, let's just say not very strong looking bridge. I'm not sure where this actually leads to. I cannot remember this area in the game. Maybe I am just drawing a blank. This actually looks like the bridge the bridge at the start when you enter the painted world of Ariamis, but I might be mistaken here. But then again, this tower looks like it's in the painted world, and this picture has snow on the ground. So yeah, I think this, and there's snow on the bridge. So I think this is from the painted world of Ariamis. Here we have some pictures of some of the outskirts areas. I don't think these are any areas in particular, but they just kind of look like vistas that you can see. These don't really remind me of any specific area. Again, there's snow, so it might be in the painted world, but from what I can remember, there was nothing that looked like this in the painted world. Sorry, I'm just moving my little tripod closer so I can move the book closer, so I can see a bit easier. Here we have Lord Gwyn, Lord of Sunlight, and the inheritor of one of the 4 souls that was found. So the 4 soul bearers are Gwyn, the Witch of Izalith, the Lord Nito, who is the Lord of Death, and the Furtive Pygmy. And the Furtive Pygmy got the Dark Soul, and he or they used it to create humanity by fracturing it. So this is Gwyn, obviously hollowed in the kiln of the first flame. So I'm assuming he has already reignited the flame in this picture, and this is him after using himself as kindling, where he's much more weakened compared to how he was, which is very sad when we find him in game. And the music that plays when you fight Gwyn, the plin plin plon, very, very sad music, and one of the most recognizable pieces of music in all of gaming. Here we have the picture of the Rotted Dragon. So we find this enemy in the Valley of the Drakes. As you are making your way, when you enter the Valley of the Drakes, you can go straight ahead to enter the New Londo Ruins, or you can take a left, which will either lead you to Blighttown, or if you have the master key, back up to Firelink Shrine. And along that little narrow path, there is a bunch of items. If you stop to collect those items, this massive dragon, who appears to be undead, pops up and starts swinging at you and throwing up bile. Not a very difficult enemy to fight, however, at the beginning of the game, because when you first get to that area, you are still extremely early in the game. He can be a absolute damage sponge, so you can absolutely kill him, but it will take you a while. It's the kind of thing of, he throws up, you wait, you run in, hit him twice, and then run out, and then do that 30 times, and then he dies. You have a double spread of Seath the Scaleless. So as you can see, he is an albino dragon. His wings aren't fully developed, and instead of bottom legs, he has these kind of tentacle appendages things. I can't tell if those are hairs or if those are crystals, but there does appear to be a big crystal here. So this is what Seath the Scaleless looks like, which is a very cool picture. And here is Guinevere. So Guinevere is the person who gives us the Lord Vessel. She is guarded by Ornstein and Smo. So once you defeat them, you go up and you enter her chambers. And you find her sitting like this. So she is Gwyn's firstborn, Gwyn's daughter, let's just say. And she essentially says, chosen undead, you are the one, take this vestal and all that. However, she is an illusion, because if you hit her once with any weapon, even barehanded, if she takes 1 damage, she disappears. Alright, let's continue into Chapter 2. Chapter 2, World Materials. So these are concept arts of different bits of architecture throughout the world. So we're not going to spend too much time on these, but let's get into it anyway. So these 4 here are of Firelink Shrine. This one is from a bit of a distance away. This is where the fire or the bonfire is. This is where the crestfallen warrior is. This little hole right here is where the firekeeper is kept imprisoned, and I don't know if you can see it, but this little red marker here is where Lautrec sits. We'll get to who Lautrec is in a moment. This is another picture of Firelink Shrine a bit closer up, and this looks like it's in some of the interiors. This looks like a little bit inside of the Undead Burg, however I'm not sure exactly where. Here we find the cathedral where we fight the twin gargoyles. So this is one of the rooms where we find, what do we find in here? I can't remember what we actually find in here, but I know it's an important item. This is also the room where we can activate the elevator to bring us back from this area down to Firelink, which is an incredible moment. That's just that moment when you get in that elevator and you go down and you realize you're back in Firelink with 0 loading screens is incredible, especially for a game in 2011. Like, oh my god. So here are some more of the statues found within this cathedral or church. This is one of the Bells of Awakening. Let me zoom in a bit for this section, sorry. This is one of the Bells of Awakening with our player character for scale comparison. This looks like these are all part of the depths, which are essentially the sewers. This is the entrance into the depths and some of the areas around it. These look like the depths again, however I can't see for sure because they are very, very dark. But the chain down here and the table with all of the butcher's equipment makes me believe that this is also the depths based on the butcher enemy type that we find down here. So here again is Anor Londo. So this is the main staircase here. This is a better kind of semi-overhead view of the castle. Here's a more closer look. So this is the staircase that leads up. This is the main gate that we can eventually open. However, when we first get here, we have to take this path to the left, to the right. So you go up here, right here, then down the staircase, and then down here and through a bunch of different catwalks. This looks like an area similar to where we fight Gwendolyn. Actually, no, I apologize, sorry. This is the area where we fight Ornstein and Smo, based on the pillars. So this is it with the sunlight illusion still up, and this is it with the sunlight illusion gone, where it is dark. So at this point, since it's dark, that means Ornstein and Smo have already been defeated. This is one of the grand lifts of Anor Londo, so this is how we get to from place to place. There's also a gargoyle on this lift the first time we get there, so we can either go up to go to the castle of Anor Londo, or go down once we have killed Guinevere, take the lift down to go and fight Gwendolyn. Here are some more pictures. So this is the Duke's Grand Archives. Not spending too much time here, but since we already covered the Duke's Archives, same over here. This is the exterior of the archives. This here is interesting. So this is the crystal that we need to destroy during the battle with Seat the Scalers. This crystal is what is granting him immortality. So once we destroy this, he becomes vulnerable. and he gets very angry when you do that. Here, again, I can't actually tell where this is. This looks like New Londo, actually, based on just the fog and how kind of disarrayed everything looks. I might be wrong. But yeah, actually, no, you know what? I am right, because over here there's a picture of what looks to be the same kind of architecture, but you see all of the water that has flooded it. So yeah, this is New Londo that has been flooded and is haunted with ghosts. Not fun to stumble into on your first try. So this section is the NPC materials. So this is concept art as well as in-game art of various NPCs and characters and enemies. So here is Soler of Astora with his shield, his sword, his helmet with his little plume, and of course his signature sun decal on his tunic, on his surcoat and his shield, with some concept art of Soler here. This one is interesting because he doesn't have the full chest piece. I wonder if this was a maybe a concept art for a female Soler, just based on the armor compared to the male armor, because there's a lot of armor in Dark Souls where the female set looks more like this and the male set looks more like this, but maybe that's just me. So here we have the Crestfallen Warrior. He is one of the first NPCs we meet when we first enter Lordran. I actually like his concept art a lot more than his art in-game. In this concept art, he looks more like an actual proper soldier, with his chainmail being up over his head and everything. Whereas in the game, he does not have the chainmail over his head. He doesn't have anything on his head. Okay, so the egg-burdened enemy. These are enemies that we encounter, or not enemies but per se, but people that we encounter once we defeat Quelaag. These people serve the Fair Lady, which is Quelaag's sister, and they all have these massive bulging backs filled with parasitic larvae. They do this willingly, which is horrifying, and they crawl around on the ground, and you can see them kind of kneeling up and praying. I'm assuming they're praying to the Fair Lady, but if it was me, I would pray for death in this case. These guys remind me of the Flood Carrier forms from the Halo series. This is one of the parasitic worms that sprouts out of them, and it is actually possible to get infected with these worms. These guys have an attack where one of the larvae pops up and initiates a grab attack, and if that happens after a certain amount of time, your head becomes replaced with a parasite. However, thankfully, there is a way to reverse it. Unfortunately, though, it requires a good amount of farming for that item. Here is some concept art of Healing Hand Ingward. I think that's how you pronounce that. Very cool. I really like the red robes and stuff of his character, or of their character. I'm not sure if they're a man or a woman. This is the undead merchant, which we encounter in the aqueduct, which takes us back from the undead berg to Firelink Shrine, and then can be used as a shortcut. Very good for buying items like moss and stuff like that. But apart from that, not really much else. much more use than that. Over here we have the Dark Moon Knights. So this is the armor worn by the Firekeeper in Analondo that I was talking about, the one that becomes hostile to you once you break the illusion of both Gwendolyn and the sunlight, which is very sad. However, they do have she has one of the best looking armor sets in the game, I think. The helmet is meh, but the rest of her armor is absolute peak fashion souls. Up next is Kingseeker Frampt, one of the two primordial serpents. So, Kingseeker Frampt, his goal is to have us succeed Lord Gwyn and continue the continue the Age of Fire by reigniting the first flame. Here is Shiva of the East, a very interesting character and a character that a lot of people miss on their playthrough. You find him in Blighttown, and he tells you that he is looking for a sword. I can't remember the name of the sword, but it is a katana that I believe drains your health over time but does a lot of damage, and he asks you to go and find it. If you find it and bring it back to him, you have the option, he will ask you basically, can you hand it over? And you have the option of saying yes or no. If you say yes, you give him the sword, and then he immediately attacks you. If you say no, he says, oh, well, that's understandable. That's fine, I agree. And then the second you walk off, he backstabs you and insta-kills you. And then you have to come back and fight him. Very cool NPC. Just another great design of how not all NPCs are friendly. But yeah, I actually personally really like that weapon. I'm not a dex user at all in any game. I'm not going to make any dex memes or dex jokes, but I'm always a strength faith build guy. But that weapon does look very, very, very cool. Okay, here we have Oswald of Kareem. So he is someone that we find after we defeat the twin gargoyles, and he offers us absolution for a fee. If I remember correctly, what absolution does is that if you have upset or aggroed any NPC by accident, for example, if you accidentally press the attack button when you're near someone and it does enough damage that they instantly become hostile, pressing the request absolution at the altar that he is at gets rid of the hostility and almost starts over. Next up is Siegmeyer of Katarina, everyone's favorite little goofball in Dark Souls. So this is him here. He is called the Onion Knight based on his helmet. Do not let his armor fool you. The man is not fat and extremely brave despite being somewhat of a little dope. What I really like, however, is this. This is the first time I have ever seen how his helmet actually opens, which is so cool. Yeah, I just think that's really cool. But he is a very skilled warrior. However, he does end up getting stuck a lot of the time and requiring our help. Next up, we have Andre the Blacksmith. So we find him in the tower in between the cathedral leading to the gargoyle fight. which is also connected to the walkway entrance to Sen's Fortress. And then also, if you go down from his location, you enter the forest area. I can't remember what the forest area is called. I'm so sorry. But he is the main blacksmith. He is one of two blacksmiths, but he is the main blacksmith. Fun fact, so Andre is also featured in Dark Souls 3, but Andre's design comes from Berserk, from a character named Godo, who is also a blacksmith. Most people know this, but just in case you don't, most of Dark Souls, most of Dark Souls, Elden Ring, and to some extent Bloodborne have massive inspirations from Berserk. Berserk being the manga. Some of them are very much inspired, whereas others are just straight up taken. For example, Andre and the wheel skeletons are very essentially just copy and pasted. Others are very similar, you know, like one of the armor sets that you get very on in the game is very similar to Guts' armor when he's in the Band of the Hawk. But enough about Berserk. This is a video about Dark Souls. So here he has Vamos the blacksmith. He is the second blacksmith in the game. He is a kind of a secret to find. Again, without looking up any guides, most players will miss him. He is located in the catacombs through a secret wall. I know there is some benefit to using him, but I cannot remember what it is. But it's cool to see him with the concept art. One with no helmet, and then one with like a Viking style helmet. But yeah, he is a skeleton. Next up is once we rescue Lautrec, if we rescue him and we take no action against him, he will murder the Firekeeper and then disappear. We are able to then invade him and 3 of his allies in Anolondo, in the main chamber of the palace. And once we defeat him, we get her soul back, and we have the option of either consuming it to gain more Estus Flask uses, or bringing it back and bringing her back to life. I always bring it back so she can come back to life. And once we do so, her tongue is back, so she is fully capable of speech, which is really, really cool. I wonder why her tongue was cut out. Was that a person? Or was that something that happened just to her? Or at this time and in this culture, were Firekeepers meant to have their tongues cut out? Because the Firekeeper in Anolondo doesn't have her tongue cut out, so I wonder why she did. Here is Princess Dusk of Ulasil. So Princess Dusk is a princess of Ulasil, obviously. However, she is the triggering NPC to start the Artorias DLC. We find in the wooded area, when we go to where the Hydra is, if we go into the water and head to the left, we find a golden golem enemy. Once we defeat the golden golem enemy, Princess Dusk will emerge. So someone had trapped her in that golem, and then she will be like, "Oh my god, thank you," and then tell us about her story, about how she was essentially snatched out of her world and brought here. Next is the witch Beatrice. Very cool character. Can teach some very interesting spells. Not really much to say about her. I don't use magic in Dark Souls games. I use faith, but I don't use hexes or any kind of sorceries. Again, no particular reason, it's just not my preferred playstyle. I'm sure there's loads of you out there who absolutely love sorceries and being a wizard, but for me, I like a big, massive sword and some healing incantations with lightning. Here we have Quelana of Izalith. So, when the Witch of Izalith tried to recreate the first flame, it turned the once majestic city of Izalith into essentially hell. The witch became this monstrosity, and most of her daughters became very similar monstrosities. You know, Quelaag is her daughter, who is a half spider, half woman. The Fair Lady is a spider cross, but you know, she's blind, so she needs taken care of. Okay, moving on. Here we have Havel the Rock, one of Gwyn's greatest warriors against the dragons, as you can see by his dragon tooth great club here. Here is Black Iron Tarkus, a friendly NPC that we can find. Very strong enemy, strong ally, massive armor, massive sword, the epitome of a good strength build. We have the Xanthus King Termath, which is synonymous with this massive yellow crown of kind of fabric. Looks very similar to one of the enemies in Demon Souls. Paladin Leroy is someone that went into the catacombs and did not find a good fate. Next up we have the Asylum Demon, not spending too much time because we already covered him. He's the first boss that we fight in the Undead Asylum. This is the Taurus Demon. This is the Taurus Demon. Again, not spending too much time. We fight him on the bridge after making our way through Undead Burg. Capra Demon is a, I think he actually might be an optional boss. If not, he's the way we get access to the depths. Pretty easy fight, but the hardest part is the dogs that swarm you because they start attacking you when you're not even through the fog wall. Here's the Gaping Dragon, one of the most memorable bosses in all of the Soul series, and an absolute spectacle to fight, even if it is fairly easy. And here are some of the concept arts of just that. Here is the Chaos Witch Quelaag. So as you can see, compared to the Fair Lady, she is much stronger looking. She has still has pale skin, but doesn't look as sickly. She has dark hair, wielding a weapon, and also her spider is fully alive and spewing magma. Here's a little slice comparison. This is the Ceaseless Discharge. So this is a very sad story. So this is one of the the Witch of Izalith's sons, and we find him once we defeat Quelaag by we enter a walkway on a cliff, and once we get to the near the middle, we pass him and he's not hostile. Then when we get to the end, we pick up the robes of the witches, which are his sister's robes, which sends him into an enraged frenzy. He begins chasing you, And what you're meant to do is lure him back to the start where you entered, at which point he will trip and fall and hang on to the edge to try and save himself. And then what you go and do is you hit him a few times on his hand and he falls to his death. It is very, very sad. Here again is the centipede demon. Don't really have much to say on him or them. I'm not super familiar with them, if I'm being honest. This is the Witch of Izalith. So, as I mentioned earlier, all of the Witches of Izalith turned into horrible monstrosities. She personally gave birth to every demon. All of the Taurus demons and Capra demons she personally gave birth to. Her daughters, became these half-human, half-spider monsters, but at least they're still, half of them at least, are still recognizably human. She, however, is a complete monstrosity. She looks more like a tree with all of these roots and bits of, I don't even know what these are, coming out of her hands. The poor woman suffered an awful fate. So here we have the Belfry Gargoyles. These are, we fight 2 of these to activate the Bell of Awakening on top. We also fight 1 on the Anolondo lift. Here is the Iron Golem, who we fight at the end of Sen's Fortress. Sen's Fortress is one of my favorite areas. The boss is a fairly pushover. He's fairly easy to knock down and then just wail on him. But it is annoying though. He's able to grab you and throw you off the map, which can suck. But at the same time, it's also possible for us to push him off the map. So it's kind of fair like that. Next, sorry, did I skip? No, I didn't. So next we have Dragon Slayer Ornstein. So the Dragon Slayer Ornstein was one of Gwyn's 4 knights. He carries a spear, which is imbued with lightning, which is incredible for defeating dragons, being able to plunge it deep in their scales and then use lightning to kill them. These are some concept art. He has this very lion-looking helmet as well as the red plume. I believe the Leo ring actually has a picture of Ornstein, but I might be wrong. This is him in his gold armor. He is a knight. However, his partner in the boss fight, Smo, is an executioner. What's interesting though is he looks like a big fat guy, but if you look at his layout here, his head is up here. However, this right here, kind of underneath his neck guard, these are his eyes, so he's a very short person, but he's able to wield this massive armor and massive hammer. The 2 work great as a duo boss fight. Ornstein is quick and quick to move, quick to attack, but his attacks aren't super powerful, while Smo is very slow to move and slow to attack, but his attacks are devastating. And then once one of them is defeated, the other absorbs their energy in the funeral rites of the Age of Fire among the gods, and become essentially double or triple in size. So what I always do when I play is I always kill Ornstein first and then fight the large version of Smo, just because I find it easier. Next up we have Gwendolyn. Not going to spend too much time on him, just because we've already spoken about him. But he has his snake legs, as you can see. This is, for comparison, this is the little Nendroid, or not a Nendroid, but figure, that also has the snake legs. I can't remember what the lore reason is for why he has snake legs, but if someone knows, please let me know in the comments. I'm genuinely curious. Seath the Scaleless, won't go into too much detail. the Hydra, which is an enemy that we find in the lake and deep root basin. One of those bosses, it's not officially a boss, it's like a mini boss. Not super difficult, it's just a battle of patience. You have to wait for him to attack and lunge at you, and then hit him twice, and then he'll retreat, and you do this over and over and over until he is dead. But once he's dead, he does not respawn. Next up, we have Grave Lord Nito. Nito was one of the four beings to receive one of the first souls. Nito got the soul of death, so he is the Lord of Death. Very interesting fight, very cool, and one of the most interesting looking enemies. He has a very interesting move. Most of the bosses in Dark Souls have physically telegraphed attacks, where Nito has an attack that is telegraphed through sound. So you will hear a sound, and then a spike will shoot up from the ground and impale you. So you have to be ready to dodge whenever you see that. Up next is the Four Kings. This is From Software's kind of first attempt at doing a multi-enemy boss fight. The way these guys work is each of them has their own small little health bar, but they all share the same large boss health bar. So you're able to concentrate on killing one to temporarily thin their numbers until another one shows up. But after you kill enough of them, the boss health bar will be gone, and you will be completed this boss fight. Forgot to say, these guys also dwell in the Abyss. Okay, up next we have the Everlasting Dragon. We find him in Ash Lake. He is not a friendly NPC, nor is he a hostile. He is a Covenant NPC, so you can join a Covenant for him, and in return you get access to the Dragon Form. Dark Souls 1 probably has my favorite Dragon Form. I think Elden Ring might have the best, but as far as the Dark Souls series go, Dark Souls 1 has a really good one. Actually, you know what? No, that is a lie. I much prefer the Dark Souls 2 one. And the Dark Souls 3 Dragon Form, we do not speak of that affront to God, because that looks terrible. But yeah, this is what he looks like. It's very surreal entering the Ash Lake and stumbling into a little nook and finding a dragon just chilling there. And next up we have Crossbreed Priscilla. So Crossbreed Priscilla is half dragon, half god. She is her parents were Seath the Scaleless and Guinevere. So because this caused lots of issues for the royal line, it would kind of be awkward for the family who came into power by killing all of the dragons to have a daughter who's half dragon. So she was exiled to the Painted World, where she takes care of all of its inhabitants. However, what's really cool is once you get to the end of the Painted World of Ariamis, and you enter her boss arena, and I wish more games did this in the FromSoft series, there is an option to not kill her. When you get to her, she essentially says, hey, it's obvious you do not belong here. There's a way to leave. All you have to do is jump off that ledge, and you'll be sent back to your world. And if you do this, she lives and you get teleported back. Whenever I play, I never kill Priscilla, so I'm not sure if there's any drops or rewards for killing Priscilla, but in my opinion, it's not worth it. Next up is the monster materials. However, guys, that is going to be it for this part of the video. This is going to be a two-part series, and I'm going to record the next part after this. So for those of you listening while going to sleep or relaxing, now is the time to turn off the video so the ad doesn't wake you up. I'll give you a few seconds. Alright, so thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed going through this art book as much as I enjoyed going through this art book. I can't wait to continue, so I am going to be recording part 2 literally the second I hit end recording. So I'll see you guys in the next one. My name has been Crimson, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.